Good morning, everybody. Today, I really wanted to talk about the human heart. More specifically, I really wanted to talk about the female human heart. Now, the world is really, really busy trying to pursue after careers and fame and fortune and tremendous success in every single area. But I actually believe that the most important thing that we could ever do, or anything that we could possibly ever dream of, is to try to win the human heart. I've talked a little bit in earlier videos about how my belief of heaven and the promised land is found in relationship and being connected with those people in a deep and intimate way who are in your life and who you can have trust with. And I really truly believe that that is one example of why relationship should be more important than anything else. That being said, when we look at the female human heart, we see a tremendous source of resources. You know, Eve was called the mother of all living, and I don't know if anybody has ever really given thought to just what that means. But that means that for all the generations of humanity, you know, it can be traced back to a single woman, and all of us have that kind of life and those kinds of resources that's in our hearts. You know, we're just incredible life givers as women. Also, too, when you look at the Bible, you read about Rachel and Leah, who are the builders of the house of Israel. That means that while we might take the name of the man involved, which was Jacob, who later became Israel, the real key to Israel was Rachel and Leah. They were the ones who really truly built what we know to be the house of Israel that later produced Jesus and Messiah, who in modern days is the land of Israel and the Jewish people. So we see tremendous resources in women, and we see tremendous resources in the hearts of women. And I've written, I don't know if I've made any videos, but I can really trace a tremendous amount of violence towards women, whether it's rape or murder, back to the desire of certain men to try to grab a hold of the resources of women and to try to really keep it for themselves. And you know, really, rape and murder is that they want that particular woman's life at all costs, even if that means rape and murder. So the heart of a woman is incredibly precious, and it really is tremendously valuable. And I really am concerned. One of the reasons why I really wanted to make this video is because I am deeply concerned that the way that modern dating practices is that it is almost like taking the female human heart, or even it could be a man's heart as well, but I think that women are falling prey to this a lot more often. That men are trying very hard to develop this kind of a relationship with a woman with only the intention of basically slamming the door in her face in order to basically sell out their relationship for some career or some kind of worldly pursuit. Let me try to explain. Even if we were to take Jacob as an example, you know, Jacob was married to two sisters, which wasn't totally legally kosher, but it wasn't entirely his fault. He was tricked into it. And rather than really stomping his foot and throwing out Leah, the sister that he really didn't want to marry, he ended up just marrying them both and keeping them both, which shows a tremendous amount of honor. But Jacob also ended up with concubines as well. And those concubines, his mistresses, were not women that he just slept with and threw out. They were women that he brought into his house and they never left. And the reason why this is incredibly important is, once again, it's about the promised land. You know, when you make a deep personal connection with another human being, you're basically making a connection that goes all the way through eternity. You're making a connection all the way through life. And so if you have a sort of modern And it doesn't even have to be in dating, it can also be in marriage. If you're married to, say, for example, a man who is really, he acts hot and cold. He's very, very warm one moment and trying to grab a hold of you and trying to get married to you and everything else like that. And the next moment, he's kind of closing the door, withholding love, saying he doesn't like you, he doesn't love you, whatever else like that. And then he sort of pitches you out and doesn't want to have anything to do with you. Basically, what he's doing is he's selling your relationship out for monetary gain. Now, as awful as that might be for women, and it's kind of rough for women, and lots of women go through this, man, I tell you what, I have seen so many women go through this, both married and single. It also hurts the man as well, because while he is obviously getting a benefit, he's getting resources from it. Those resources are only temporary. They will only last for so long, and then he'll end up with nothing. And actually there's an exchange, because, and men don't understand this, and women don't either who do this, because there are women who do it too. But men who are really, really pursuing after women and chasing women down and really chasing after their hearts, with specifically the intention of just stealing her heart by making her love him and then dropping her and kicking her out. What he's doing is he's exchanging his own heaven and his own spiritual inheritance for an earthly payout. So it is a very, very ugly and dangerous thing, not just for women, because of course women need their resources. They need their monetary, resources. They need to be able to survive in the world. And that's ultimately what men are stealing whenever they do that. But they are also exchanging their relationship with Jesus Christ out for that monetary gain. So modern day dating practices are basically stealing a lot of people from heaven and stealing a lot of the kinds of different things of heaven that they could possibly experience. And it's really it's a huge ripoff. It really doesn't benefit anybody in the long run. If you were in that relationship with that woman or that man, if it was a man in this particular case, all those resources that's in that person would be shared between the two in the relationship. If you're connected with that person, however much of their heart that you win through the things that you do, ultimately find an expression through both of you. Even though Jacob and Israel, Jacob, who later was named Israel, is said to be sort of the head of the house of Israel. I mean, the builders were Rachel and Leah. So they have a legacy that has gone throughout generations that was so powerful. It was written in the Bible. And it was basically where people share their resources, and those resources become available to the entire group and to the entire family. And of course, the only way that this could really take place is faithfulness, and that is being faithful to your relationships. Now, I personally see kind of an interesting trend that I noticed specifically in the U.S., that a lot of people who are married to somebody, if they do get a divorce, which is never good, it's never kosher. But, in the U.S., I see a real interesting thing where even if a couple gets divorced, they're still bringing that person into family gatherings and barbecues and all that other stuff. And I really do think that it has something to do with this, that people need to stay in connection if they've had some kind of a relationship with each other. So this is really the sort of practical reason why you should always be kind to the people that you are in a relationship with. You should always be faithful to the people in your relationship with, even if the nature of that relationship changes. The nature can change, but that relationship needs this, in order for there to always be a balance between worldly resources and heavenly resources, that relationship needs to stay intact. Otherwise, you're going to have one person with no worldly resources, but all of heaven, and the other person will have all the financial rewards and no heaven, and then they're going to end up in hell. So it's really, really serious business. It's very, 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 very serious. So that being said, there are a few songs and even a Bible verse that I really think about when it comes to, people really need to be careful about the people that they let into their hearts, and that they really allow that deep part of themselves to really be opened up to. We read in the Song of Solomon where Jesus, or at least, we know it as the king, goes up to the bedroom door, very, very, in all likelihood, looking for a sexual union with his wife. He knocks on the door and he says, "Open to me, my love, my spouse, my dove, my loved one." Beautiful poetry rolls out of him as he basically asks this woman to please open the door to let him in. And you could say that while it's definitely a picture of sexual union, of physical sexual union, you could also say there is a spiritual union as well, where Jesus can knock on the door of your heart and ask to be let in. And also to men, or our relationships can also knock on the door and say, "Let me in." And yes, if you have somebody who is legitimately wanting a faithful, committed relationship with you, what they're saying is, "I want to go hand in hand with you, and I want to build a legacy on earth, and I want to build an inheritance in heaven with you, and we're going to do it together." And that's really what marriage is supposed to be about, and that's what a relationship, even if it's a friendship, as simple as a friendship, is really all about. But you also have, for example, the story of the big bad wolf and the three little pigs, where the wolf is like, "Let me in, let me in." And of course, the whole reason why he wanted to be let in was because he just wanted to sort of eat the pigs. That was all he wanted to do. He wanted to steal their resources and slaughter them dead, The insatiable lust of humanity really shows that, these people, whether it's men or women who go from partner to partner to partner, person to person, where they're really, really good at winning hearts, and then they close the door, slam it shut. The only thing that they are really trying to do is steal the financial resources of the person that they are doing that to. And that is very, 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 very wrong, but it also has incredibly bad consequences because they're actually ripping their own soul off. Anyway, so besides those two, the three little pigs and the big bad wolf, and then you have Jesus, who truly wants you to open up to him so that he can really be in the deepest part of your being. You also have, Michael Jackson, who sings "Give It to Me When I Want It." And that's a really, really powerful song where, there's a man who's singing, and he feels like a woman is withholding that deepest part of her being to him. And, he's just like, "Give it to me, give it to me. Let me in, let me in, let me into your heart." And of course, is it good for her? Is it going to benefit her? Is it going to just rip her off and leave her without any kind of financial possibilities or resources? We don't really know, but in that particular song, we hear a man, it could also be a woman, full of lust, who doesn't want to show the other person that they have any character, that they have any real faithfulness, that they have any good legacy or heaven building resources, which is all things that you need to consider with a long-term relationship. Instead, they're just saying, "Open up and give it to me because that's what I want." And people have to be careful. And in these modern days, we have to be even more careful. So that is really what I really want to talk about. Have a good day. Bye-bye.